There are so many incredible fighting games with unique characters, amazing mechanics, memorable art styles. It's one of the most vibrant and diverse video game genres out there, with countless franchises to pick from. But over the course of the last 30 to 40 years, a lot of those franchises have fallen to the wayside, left forgotten in dusty old arcade cabinets with small but dedicated fan bases begging for new installments. Well, 2 years ago, something special happened. At EVO 2022, SNK announced that Fatal Fury would be returning with a brand new installment, the first one in over 20 years. This left the entire fighting game community stunned, especially those of us who the year before had done an entire retrospective on this series, and we ended it by saying we don't think there will ever be a new installment. Man, whoever I'm talking about must feel like an idiot right now. But forget all that. The most important thing about this announcement is that it gave us hope. If Fatal Fury could come back after so long, what else might return? Well, this weekend, EVO is here once again. That time of the year when the best fighting game players in the world go head to head and developers give us some of the biggest surprise announcements of the year. So, what better time to ask the question, what other fighting game needs to come back? But there's so many options, there's so much to unpack in that question. How could we possibly cover it all? So we're going to do a tier list. Hey everybody, it's me, Thorgy. I'm here on Twitch right now, and you will be seeing little bits of the chat pop up every now and again. So just give you a heads up on that. Today we're going to be doing a tier list of what fighting game needs to get a sequel. Now, before we begin, you can see all the contenders down here, although the chat might remind me of an obvious one that I've forgotten that I add at the last second. I'm not saying that happened 5 seconds before we started recording. Here is what you need to be to qualify for this list. I need to feel like your game either at one point was a franchise in the past, or it has franchise potential. So there's a lot of great fighting games that only got one installment, but they kind of feel like one and done. Like someone threw out Mace the Dark Age. Mace the Dark Age, shockingly good game for the time it came out, but it feels like a one and done kind of game. You know, other games like Weapon Lord kind of feels like a one and done kind of game. These are all games that either they got multiple installments or I feel like they deserve multiple installments. Also, they have to be a game that either hasn't gotten a new game in a substantial amount of time, or the developers have made it clear they don't have plans right now to make another one. Because there are some games up here like Dead or Alive that did not come out that long ago. However, it's been made pretty clear they don't have plans to make another one right now. And also, the final rule that I want to throw in there is that if the game came out a while ago, but it's still receiving updates, I'm not going to count for this list. And the perfect example of that is Skullgirls. Skullgirls came out over 10 years ago. However, they just got a brand new DLC character just a couple months ago. So yeah, it doesn't count for this because that one game is still getting support. Jump All Stars, I will explain that one. I know a lot of people are already looking at Jump and they're asking questions. I'm going to explain that one. Believe me, there's a big asterisk next to this one. Don't go assuming anything just yet. This one takes some explaining. So we're going to go ahead and jump into this right now. I am actually going to go from the front and the back, and we're going to work our way into the middle, which I just realized leaves us at one. You know, no, we're going to start at the front and just go that direction. That's not the one for us to end on. Let me explain the categories here. At the very bottom is, nah, we're good. Fairly self-explanatory. We don't need another game. Then, make a collection. We don't need a new game, but re-release those old games in some kind of a nice collection. And I want to emphasize nice collection. And I'm emphasizing that because I believe that every single video game out there should be available to be purchased in the modern day on modern consoles. If you are the owner of an old video game, just port it. If there's any way for you to port it, make it so that people can play it again. That is ideal. I understand that you can't always do that, and it's unfortunate, but if you can port it, go ahead and port it. So even if it winds up in nah, we're good, I would still be happy to see those games get some kind of a re-release. Collection is where it's like, no, put them all in one thing, make it nicely packaged, give us lots of like behind the scenes info, character sketches, developer interviews, give us some kind of a nice collection that we could like display on our shelves. But we don't need a new game. Then let the characters live on. This is when they don't need a new game, but you know what? There's good characters in there. Let them pop up in other games. Let them keep living on. And the reason why that one is above Mega Collection, my feeling is if the characters get to live on, there should also be a way to play all the other games. Like, there should also be a collection. If there's already going to be the characters living on in another fighting game out there, give us a collection so we can at least see where those characters came from. Spiritual successor is when we don't need a new fighting game, but maybe we could do something else with it. Maybe we could, you know, let the franchise continue, but, you know, maybe not as a fighting game, maybe it gets to be something else. Make a sequel, that one's obvious. It's the, yes, this game needs a sequel, and then that is not what that was supposed to be. Now we're good. Make a collection. Let the characters live on. Spiritual successor. Make a sequel. Why isn't there a sequel? This is one where it's like, yes, let there be a sequel. What is wrong with you for not making it? Like, this is the top. This is the S class. Like, there should have been a sequel yesterday. The Darkstalkers tier. Yeah, I didn't want to say anything. You guys are already reading my mind, chat. Chat's already reading my mind on this one. Live on as cosmetics or cameos in other games. I didn't think about that. Oh, that's the nasty tier. That is the purgatory, in which you just pop up as costumes in Street Fighter. We're now beginning with a very interesting pick, because this is Akatsuki Blitzkampf. And the reason it's interesting is because, A, out of all the games on here, this is the only one I have never actually played. I've heard amazing stuff about it. It's got a very dedicated following. I've tried to emulate it, but I suck at emulating, so I could never get it to run. But the other reason why it's interesting is because the chat informed me right before we started recording that literally last year, like, I knew this game already had a sequel, and just to clarify again for anybody who doesn't understand what I'm saying, when I say sequel, I mean new game. Should it get a modern day new game? The chat informed me that I knew this game got a new, got a sequel in 2010. Apparently last year, it got an update to that sequel. So it still kind of is living on a little bit. But you know what? So this one, that's still not technically a sequel, but that does change things. That does change things, because I was going to put this in Make a Collection. I was going to say, listen, this game is so beloved, and there's so many questions around what were they thinking when they made this game. I want a collection that packages them all together, gives it rollback netcode, makes it so anyone can play this thing, and get some developers interviews so we can know what was going on. But if this thing got an update to the sequel last year, that feels like they're testing the waters a little bit. So yeah, you know, it's good. If they're already teasing you enough with it, give them the sequel. It got updated, there you go. Go ahead and put that up there. Next up, Arcana Hearts. Arcana Hearts is a game with a massive fan following. 2 Arcana Hearts wasn't enough. Technically there's 3, but one never left Japan. And then the third one has been updated like 5-6 times. I'm very torn on this, because I will be honest with you, I think the Arcana Heart games are good, but they're not my thing. Like, they just do not do really a lot for me. But they do have that fan base, and they have continued updating the games. I'm gonna say give it a collection. I'm gonna say give it a collection, because currently you can only play Arcana Hearts 3, and you can only play the most modern version of that, and there's been multiple different versions of it. And there's 2 other games before that. One you can get on a PS2, and the other one never left Japan. So I feel like this screams perfect for a big package bundle deal. So I'm gonna say give it a collection, but I know that's gonna upset some of the Arcana Hearts fans. I apologize on that. Art of Fighting is an interesting one, because I know the guys behind SNK's fighting game division right now say they want to bring back Art of Fighting. And they did say they wanted to bring back Fatal Fury as well. And they brought back Fatal Fury. So this one could actually maybe happen. I don't think it should happen, because SNK has so many different fighting games that they can pull from, and each of them take about 3 years to make. If you told me, hey, it's gonna be another 3 more years before you get King of Fighters, but you get Art of Fighting 4, I'd be like, that ain't worth it. that's not a trade-off I'm willing to take. And it's also weird because if I said let the characters live on, they do. They're all in King of Fighters. You know what? This is what I'm going to do. This is the other reason why Art of Fighting should not get a new game. I'm gonna say this right now. For anybody who doesn't know, King of Fighters and Fatal Fury are on separate timelines. King of Fighters was meant to be a spin-off where there's like no continuity and all the characters from anything can be in there, but then that became more popular and that one became the one with the continuity, so then the main games became the weird spin-offs. So Fatal Fury and King of Fighters are in different universes. Here's the weird thing. Art of Fighting is in the Fatal Fury universe, and it is a prequel to Fatal Fury. It actually comes out like 10 years before the events of Fatal Fury, like 10 to 15 years before Fatal Fury. This is the other reason why Art of Fighting should not get a sequel. It is already going to be confusing enough for fans out there when Fatal Fury comes out and it's not set in the same timeline as the King of Fighters games when most people don't know that. If they then make a new Art of Fighting and it's now a prequel to that alternate reality that you didn't know about, it's gonna be, no, people aren't gonna stand for it. It's gonna be too weird for too many people. Comes out as Fatal Fury Origins, that's actually not a bad idea. Put Jeff Bogart in there and like a young Geese Howard, that's not bad. That's actually an interesting idea. No, we're not doing that, sorry. That's actually, I would be fine with that though. I'd be very curious to see that. But here's the thing, I'm going to leave this and let the characters live on. Because, and I'm not referring to King of Fighters in this one, because Art of Fighting is set like 10 to 15 years before the events of Fatal Fury, I would love to see these characters pop up in the new Fatal Fury game. But they're all like, you know, they had the time skip. And I think they might actually be doing that. I think they might actually be willing to do that because when you see Marco Rodriguez's trailer, you see his stage and it's Yuri's. Like he's at a gym and the gym is named after Yuri, who was the little sister in Art of Fighting. I would lose my mind if at EVO this year we got the reveal of a brand new character in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves and it's Yuri, but now she's like in her mid-30s and she's a total badass grown-up. I'd be down with that. I think that would actually be really cool. So yeah, I would love to see. I'd love to see Mr. Karate Ryo and City of Wolves. Yeah, Ryo actually became Mr. Karate in another spin-off game, Baruki 1. Baruki 1? One of those two. I think that's perfect. Yeah, bring Ryo back for Fatal Fury City of the Wolves, but now he's Mr. Karate. He's in the black gi, he's all edgy, he's got like the 5 o'clock shadow. I'd be totally down with that. I do not want a new Art of Fighting. I want the characters to live on in Fatal Fury City of the Wolves. Have them be their time skip older versions. I would be totally down for that. Okay, next up, Asura Blade. I actually really love Asura Blade and Asura Buster. They're very weird, obscure fighting games, but they're like fantasy fighters and they have really cool art styles to them. Nothing really crazy to the combat, but just feels good. But you know what? It's not nearly big enough to get any of these, but it should get a collection. Those two games should be packaged together where everybody can buy them and play them. I think it'd be great. Ballerina Toshinden. Ballerina Toshinden was famous at one point in time as one of the biggest names in 3D fighters. Mostly because it was one of the only 3D fighters. Going back now, they don't play that great, but a lot of people have nostalgia for them. I'm very torn on this one. It definitely deserves at least a collection. There should be a way to play all the old Toshinden games. Ignorantly popping in here going, yo, we talking about Toshinden? That's the hypest anyone has ever been for Ballerina Toshinden in like 10 years. I'm actually kind of thinking about maybe spiritual successor. As in like, I don't know, I think the game has enough nostalgia, but it's not famous enough for us to run on just nostalgia. But I think if we presented a game as being something brand new, some brand new video game, and it has a couple of these characters in there, and it's got some bits of the lore and stuff that you're like, wait a minute, I recognize this. You could get that nostalgia audience in there. And you could also, yeah, maybe like a reboot. Maybe like a reboot. Someone in the audience just suggested reboot. Something like that. I could see that. I don't think it's got the power to get a sequel. And I don't think it's got, like, you know, it's not quite important enough to fighting game history to get a sequel. Like, it doesn't have the high-stakes competitive crowd that Akatsuki Blitzkampf has. Ballerina Toshinden is just like, hey, you remember this game when you were a kid and it was fun. And I think something like that, you could give it like a reboot. You could give it like some kind of spin-off game. Something that doesn't rely on the nostalgia, but the nostalgia is a bonus. Let's see. Okay, God, this one's gonna be weird. This one's gonna be weird. Blazblue. Blazblue absolutely deserves a sequel. However, this one comes with a big asterisk on it. This one comes with a big asterisk next to it, which is that Blazblue was 100% the creation of Mori P. And Mori P ain't at the company anymore. And they finished the story. That is important to point out. Creating Garbage in the chat just said, didn't they finish the story? Yes, they did. So it's one of those where it's like, okay, the guy who made the game ain't there anymore. And the story is done. But people love these characters and the gameplay is amazing. Blazblue, when I was doing that retrospective and I was learning how to play those games, man, that became one of the most fun games I've ever done for a retrospective until I had to summarize the story. I'm going to make it a spiritual successor because here's my justification for that. The gameplay is amazing and a lot of the characters are amazing, but the story is done and the guy this was his child, this was the product that he created, he's gone now. And it feels very weird to make a new game without him there. Take the gameplay and some of the characters out of that, put them in something new. Create a brand new fighting game franchise using the gameplay of Blazblue, and you can pick and choose any of the characters you want. Maybe say this is set in the brand new universe that got created at the end of Blazblue, or it's yet another spin-off alternate reality. So you see a lot of characters, but they're slightly different, and you know, it feels like a new story kind of thing. Something like that. All right, Bloody Roar. I'm gonna go, I know some people are saying this, why isn't there a sequel? Bloody Roar is beloved, but it's also niche. Like, the people who, every year that goes by, the people who are demanding a new Bloody Roar gets a little bit smaller, like that crowd shrinks a little bit more. However, it is such a unique game with such a cool gimmick. And that gimmick deserves to live on. And unlike Ballerina Toshinden, where it's got that same level of nostalgia, Bloody Roar, I feel like it's a big enough name. Like Ballerina Toshinden, it's a name. Bloody Roar, when you think of like an animal changing, when you think of, okay, let me put it like this. When you think of a weapon-based 3D fighter, you're not thinking of Ballerina Toshinden. You're not. I'm sorry. It's not the first one that comes to mind. When you're thinking of a game where people turn into animals, it's Bloody Roar. There's no other answer. However, it doesn't have quite a large enough audience, I feel, to get into here. So yeah, we're gonna stick it with make a sequel. It's got a good tournament presence. That is true. I found that out not long ago. There's still a very, very dedicated audience for that. Bushido Blade Mega Collection. Bushido Blade is one of those series that it's important because it was so unique back in the day. However, you're not outside of the indie scene right now, in which there are a few fighting games like this in the indie scene. But if you want to make like some big new, like 3D fighter thing, where you can practically win with one hit, people ain't gonna stand for that these days. That is going to be niche, is going to be small. We already have indie fighters out there already doing it. So yeah, just the mere name Bushido Blade itself ain't gonna do it, but it is important enough that it gets a collection. Snake Vanilla summed up perfectly. Bushido Blade is like anti-fun, but that's what's fun about it. Yeah, for anybody who wasn't around back in the day, yeah, that's it. Capcom Vs SNK, yeah, make a new one. Capcom Vs SNK 2, one of the greatest fighting games of all time. The Capcom devs and the SNK devs are fans of each other. They're talking to each other again. The stars are aligned on this one. Just do it. I don't need to explain this one anymore. Now to go from one extreme to the other. Man, there is a fan base out there for Clayfighters. A lot of people say, nah, we're good. A lot of people say, nah, we're good. There's a fan base for Clayfighters, and it is, in its own weird way, important enough to the history of fighting games that it does deserve a sequel. Not sequel, sorry, correct that, collection. It deserves a collection. Get like some behind the scenes info on it. Get like some developer interviews. Find out what the hell happened with all those Kickstarters and websites that were popping up about. I'm gonna just stick with Mega Collection. Just so that way we have it preserved for history and people know like what the heck is going on with it. Cyberbots, spiritual successor. Cyberbots, we already have it in both the beat 'em up and the fighting game collection, so we don't need to worry about this one. That already exists. Let the characters live on. Yeah, Jin's cool enough, Devilot's cool enough. They deserve to live on. There needs to be a mech fighter from Capcom. Capcom should absolutely make a mech fighter. Whether that be Cyberbots, whether that be the other one that I am forgetting that I'm going to have pop up on the screen right now. Thank you, editing me in the future. Yeah, there absolutely should be something like that. Oh my god, Def Jam! I forgot about Def Jam. Okay, hold on a second here, guys. Good call, chat. That absolutely should have been in there. If there was ever a Def Jam builder roster, I have to be on that one. I would need you on that one because I don't know anything about music. I am severely out of touch. I'd let you write that episode. Second Megamix on the list. I was thinking about that one, but I don't know if it's quite like, if it has enough of a history or like franchise. Well, I guess franchise potential. The chat keeps reminding me of ones that I forgot to put on here, so this list is getting bigger and bigger with every second. Okay, Darkstalkers, what are we even doing here if that's not at the top? If I ever do a tier list on fighting games that need a sequel, and we don't put Darkstalkers at the top, you know I have been replaced or I'm being held kidnapped. If I ever say Darkstalkers should not get a sequel, call the police. I am in trouble and I need help. Yeah, Darkstalkers, not only should Darkstalkers be up here because it was Capcom's second biggest first-party fighting game series. So every single time that's like, hey, Capcom fires are back, it's like, well, then bring that one back. Bring back your number 2. But also, amazing characters that continue to live on in pretty much everything Capcom related. And also, this is the one out of all these. I don't think there's another one on this list that's going to have this unique situation where it was given the chance for a new game and they bungled it so hard where a new game was in development. It was in the planning stages and then they were just like, well, we gotta see if these old games that nobody was asking for sells a whole bunch. And then, oh wow, look what happened. Oh, also, did we forget to mention that we were releasing that less than a year after we already released them on this same console generation? Oh my god, yeah. This one got done dirtier than anything else on this list. Didn't Iron Galaxy redraw sprites for the game? It was Unon, the comic company. They redrew sprites because they knew that Capcom was working on a brand new game, and then Capcom said, actually, we're gonna scrap that unless this re-release sells well. How do you think a new Darkstalkers game would look visually? I honestly think that it should look the way that Arc System does their games, where it looks like 3D anime. There you go, that's number 1, absolute number 1. Dead or Alive, I will admit, I like Dead or Alive. I'm not a massive fan of it, but I do know that the fan base is dedicated to it, and it is important. It is important to the history of fighting games. It feels a little too new to be it feels like it hasn't been that long since the last game. So it feels kind of weird to already be putting up here, but from what I understand, that last game did not do well enough, and they were already kind of in trouble. So it was like, yeah, we don't think we're getting another one. We don't think we're gonna get another one. So yeah, that's why it's being included here. So it feels a little bit weird. But yeah, I know that the fan base wants another one. I know that it is important enough to the history of fighting games. But I'm not going any higher than like the bottom of make a sequel, partly because oh man, they have gotten really, really sleazy with their DLC practices. So, yeah, until that gets cleaned up, we're good. It's going to be at the bottom of Mega Sequel. So there we go. Eternal Champions, man, people are gonna hate me for this one, but now we're good. I know that any kid from the 90s has a, like, love for Eternal Champions, and it did get, like, one spin-off game. However, I think that the game should be available to play, which, as far as I understand, it already is. Like, I believe there is some kind of a Sega collection that already has it. However, I think that's all it needs. It just needs a way for you to play it. We have a way to play it. I don't think it needs a collection with, like, artwork and developer interviews and, like, crazy other behind-the-scenes stuff. I think it's fine just existing as it is, part of, like, some Sega collection. I think that's just fine for what we need. That's all you need for it, and that's what we have. It's fine. Dragon Ball FighterZ, this one has an asterisk next to it. This one has a big asterisk next to it. Because this is not Dragon Ball FighterZ. This is just Fighterz. We did the One Piece FighterZ builder roster a few years back because I stand by this. The gameplay of Fighterz is so good. And taking the Marvel vs. Capcom Tag 3v3 system and applying it to an anime series is amazing. And that works incredibly well. And Arc Systems knows how to do it. You should just drop the Dragon Ball from this and just take Fighterz, and every couple of years, just give us some brand new anime fighting game. Give us JoJo Fighters, One Piece Fighters, Bleach Fighters. Man, I was a big Bleach fan back in the day. When that trailer for the new Bleach game popped up, I was like, it looks fine, but how sick would Bleach Fighters be? Yeah, every major fighting game, every major anime franchise out there needs the Fighterz treatment. My Hero Fighters, God, I love My Hero Academia. I am the last person standing alone saying that series is amazing. I would love the hell out of My Hero Fighters. I would lose my mind for My Hero Fighters. That's great. You know what? Screw it. We all know, like, listen, what we're describing as spiritual successors, we all know that's what I'm talking about here. Why isn't there a sequel? Why isn't Bandai Namco calling up Arc Systems right now going, you know, we don't just own the rights to Dragon Ball. That absolutely right now, at any given time, Bandai Namco and Arc Systems should be planning a brand new Fighterz something. Something Fighterz. So yes, this says Dragon Ball FighterZ, it's just Fighterz. It's just Fighterz, anime. Anime Fighterz. Some random anime Fighterz game. This is a weird one because people of a certain generation love fighting Vipers. But I don't think it's got the appeal. I'm gonna say let the characters live on. Because we definitely need a collection. We absolutely 100% need a Fighting Vipers collection. There is no excuse for that to not exist. That should absolutely be a thing. But you know what? There are characters in Fighting Vipers that are memorable. Even if it's just like the history of Sega, they are memorable. So they absolutely should live on in something. Be guest characters in Virtua Fighter. Absolutely. 100%. Totally. So yeah, I'd say that they can live on something. Yeah, Bon and Candy are the two. They're the two that absolutely need to be in something. Injustice. I like Injustice. Not really the first one, but I did like the second one. I know that it's got massive problems. I know that it's super zoner heavy, but I mean, NetherRealm games are super zoner heavy. I like it. I like Injustice. I'm gonna say make a sequel. I'm gonna say make a sequel. I think that it deserves to be. No, you know what? This is now the bottom of make a sequel because I just remembered what Warner Brothers has been making NetherRealm do with their monetization. So it's like, yeah, both of you guys are getting sequels, but you're at the bottom. You both have to clean up your monetization. So yeah, there you go. So they both get sequels, but with a big finger wag of like, don't you do that thing. I know you're tempted. Don't you do it. Injustice and DOA in the timeout corner. Possible hot take, I would have preferred to get an Injustice, not MK1. I've heard a lot of people saying the same thing. That's not that hot of a take. Next up, this says Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. But this is not Godzilla Destroy All Monsters. This one comes with another big asterisk in there. This is Godzilla fighting game. Just in general, a Godzilla fighting game. There's a long history of Godzilla fighting games out there. and we haven't gotten one in a while. They are in Gigabash though, and hey, I'm gonna stop for a second to say this. Gigabash is amazing. If you like big kaiju fighting games, that game is incredible. It's got a bunch of Godzilla characters guest starring in there. It's got Ultraman guest starring in there, and it's got a lot of actually really good original characters in there. Like, there's big monsters in that game. I'm like, I want to know more about this big monster. And also, there's tons of amazing single-player content, not just like a story mode, although there is a story mode, and it's actually like got like tons of like comic panels and stuff and all sorts of stuff for each individual character. It's great, but there's a lot of like unique arcadey single-player things in there and multiplayer things. Gigabash is amazing. Everybody should play Gigabash. However, people want their own, or like they want Godzilla to have a fighting game again. They want just Godzilla, like all the Godzilla characters have a fighting game. And you know what? Yeah, there should absolutely be a brand new Godzilla fighting game. I'm not putting in why isn't there a sequel, simply because, as I said, they're in Gigabash and Gigabash is good. So if you want a Godzilla fighting game, you do have something right now. But there should be like an official Godzilla fighting game. Killer Instinct. Again, there's no reason for there to not be a new Killer Instinct. But yeah, Killer Instinct 2013 is hands down one of the best fighting games of all time. It feels incredibly good. Combat is amazing. They add that Shadow Lords mode there in the final season, which is incredible. The unique arcade ladders for each of the individual characters in the first 2 seasons are fantastic, and it stinks that the characters in season 3 didn't get them. Amazing online. Yeah, there's no reason for us to not have a brand new Killer Instinct. There's no more that needs to be said there. King of the Monsters, this one is also kind of like, you know what, SNK, you're bringing back some old games. Why not give King of the Monsters another try? But you know what, I'm gonna say nah, we're good. I like King of the Monsters. I have good memories of King of the Monsters, but out of all the companies out there to make a new kaiju fighting game, which we do need a kaiju fighting game. We need a new kaiju fighting game out there. However, SNK has so many other fighting games that they should be focusing on. King of the Monsters, it's a cute thing. We don't need it. It's fine. I'm fine with someone else making more kaiju fighting games. Although, this is tough. Ooh, this is tough. Blazblade is one of my favorite SNK fighting game franchises. It feels amazing. It is so freaking good to play. It's a weapon-based fighter, but it's like fast, but not like anime fast. It's just fast and responsive. You can do this thing where you can choose like what type of super you want, so it gives variety to each character. However, as much as I would love for there to be a new Blade, there's a big problem. There's a big problem. Which is that we are not living in the day and age anymore where every video game company out there can put out like 3 different fighting games every single year. We're living in the day and age where a company can put out 1 fighting game every 3 years. And if you went up to me, if I was like the head of SNK, as much as I love Blade, if you walked into my office and you said to me, hey, we want to bring back Blade, my response would be, why are we going to spend 3 years on Blade? We have Samurai Showdown. And Samurai Showdown does not play anything at all like Blade. Outside of the fact that they're both weapon-based fighters, they don't play anything at all alike. However, they are 2 weapon-based fighters set in feudal Japan. If you came up to me and said like, yeah, okay, so we want to do Blade, and we also want to do Samurai Showdown, I'm like, we only have the time and money for one. You gotta pick one. We're going to pick Samurai Showdown. I'm gonna say let the characters live on. Let the characters live on, because one of the characters already was a DLC character in Samurai Showdown. I think that's a fine thing to do. You can make a brand new Samurai Showdown, put the characters from Blade in there. I think that's the best solution. And of course, if it's up here, that also means give it a collection. Give it a really nice, solid collection with all the different games in there. It'd be great. Okay, now we come to the one that has the biggest asterisk of all of them, because this is Jump Force. Jump Force, nah, we're good. We should not get a new Jump Force. That game was awful. However, There should, at every given moment, be a Shonen Jump crossover fighter in the works. This is not Jump Force. I'm saying this right now. This ain't Jump Force. There's a big asterisk on this. This is a Shonen Jump crossover game. And the reason why I am counting this on here is because not only have we had Jump Force, we have had multiple Shonen Jump crossover fighting games in the past. There's a long history of Shonen Jump crossover fighting games. We absolutely need a brand new Shonen Jump crossover fighting game. I'm not gonna put in why isn't there a sequel, but it's going at the top of make a sequel. And again, to that person out there who is skipping this entire video to go straight to the end and just see where I placed everything, this is not Jump Force. This is not Jump Force. This is a Shonen Jump crossover fighter. There needs to be a new Shonen Jump crossover fighter. There's too many good characters, too many great personalities, too many fan favorites that we would love to see crossing over with each other. And Jump Force dropped the ball on all of that so that we could get like some OC where Goku would tell you that your OC is cool. Nobody cares about that. Nobody wants your OC to be running around there so that way Luffy can say, hey, you're all right. No, we want to see these characters that we know and love actually interacting with each other. It drives me insane that maybe I missed this because I'll admit I did not finish the story mode. I'll admit I did not finish the story mode, so maybe this is in there. But it drives me insane that you have a crossover fighting game in which you got Light Yagami in there and Ichigo and the other Shinigamis from Bleach. And none of them were like, hey, what's that guy floating behind you? Or JoJo. Screw it. Jotaro should have been like, oh, so you're a Stan user too. I can see that. Like, something like that. Again, didn't finish the story mode. Maybe that happens in there, but it definitely didn't seem like it was going to happen in there. And I was like, you're wasting all your potential. You're wasting all the potential in this. But yeah, there should at any given time be a Shonen Jump crossover game in the works. Next up, Persona Arena. Not Persona 4 Arena, just Persona Arena in general. This is gonna be a weird one, because for anybody who knows me, you know that I'm a massive Persona fan. And when Persona 5 came out, I was arguing up, down, every single direction out there, we need Persona 5 Arena. I want Persona 5 Arena so that way I can see these characters actually interacting and actually see them like talking to each other. But more importantly, I want to see what happened to the Persona 4 characters like 5 years down the road. I want to see what happened to the Persona 3 characters another 5 years down the road. That was the coolest thing about Persona 4 Arena is that you got to see the Persona 3 characters like multiple years after that game ended and you got to see what happened to each of them. I want to see what happened to all the Persona 4 characters out of that. I love Persona 4. Would absolutely love to see them come back and see what happened to them. However, big problem. Here's the big problem that I have with this. Persona 5 has been around too long. And I love Persona 5. And it's had amazing spin-off games. But it's had too many spin-off games for too long. It's been going on for way too long now. It's time for Persona 6. It's time to just stop doing Persona 5 over and over and over again. It's time for the next game. So, I'm not going to put this in why isn't there a sequel. I'm going to put this kind of low on make a sequel. I'm putting this low on make a sequel because I do not think that there should be Persona 5 Arena. But when Persona 6 eventually comes out, then we can get Persona 6 Arena. They've stuck with Persona 5 for too long, and now the idea of Persona 5 Arena just kind of makes me go, oh my god, we've been here too long. Give us the next game already. Yeah, give us Persona 6. Then like 2-3 years down the road from there, Persona 6 Arena. So, actually, you know what? That one kind of feels like a spiritual successor to me. Because that's not even asking for Persona 5 Arena. I'm now saying like, no, you gotta make some other games and then make something based on that. So yeah, I'm bumping that down to spiritual successor. That feels a little bit more like spiritual successor to me. Or even still, just a fighting game where you get to use stands. Turn into a JoJo game. The blueprint's right there. Power Instinct. A lot of people don't know Power Instinct, but it's got like 5 different installments. And it's like, not super important to the history of fighting games, but it's a footnote. People know this franchise, and there are a couple installments that people actually do have a lot of love for, like Groove on Fight, people have a lot of love for, and Matra Melee, which was the final version of Power Instinct. Matra Melee still gets tons of tournament play today, and people love Matra Melee. So the fact that there's no way to actually play Match or Melee or Groove on Fight today, yeah, give it a collection. In fact, top of give it a collection. That game absolutely needs a collection right now, so that way you can play all those games all together. However, I can't really think of any characters from there that I'd be like, that character needs to live on. Like, I can't really think of any of those. And there's not enough unique about to get a spiritual successor. So yeah, just give us all the old games, but make it so that we can play them now. Yeah, that makes sense. Power Stone, why isn't there a sequel? Power Instinct absolutely needs a sequel. Sorry, not Power Instinct. Sorry. Power Stone. I am killing my pop filter right now on my mic, by the way. Power Stone absolutely needs a sequel, and I will tell you why. There's this mindset that a lot of video game companies have with their fighting games. That, well, it needs to be this big, massive thing that we can support for 5 years in a row with DLC and updates all around the clock. No. Power Stone is the ultimate sit down on the couch with your friends and play it kind of game. It is the ultimate, I'm gonna pick it up for like 5 minutes, just have some goofy fun kind of fighting game. It is an amazing party fighter. And you don't really need to support those things for years down the road. You don't need to invest tons of continuous time and money and just a big staff all around it. No. You can make an amazing Power Stone game that's like 40 bucks, sold at discount price, comes out, that's the game. Maybe you get a couple of little like costume DLCs, a few new characters added in there, and then hey, you got something that you can play for years and years and years down the road with all your friends, and it just has this timeless gameplay that you can just keep picking up and playing. That's it. You don't need this to be a big crazy thing, but like a good budget double or even single A Power Stone game would be amazing. And I think a lot of video game companies need to learn it's okay to have a single or double A fighting game. Tell you what, we are now going to skip to the end of the list where the chat actually suggested a couple of things. We're gonna do like 3 here at the end. Just get them off so that way we're left with just the 1 row here. Fighterz Megamix. There does not need to be a new Fighterz Megamix, but there does need to be a spiritual successor. There needs to be a Sega crossover fighting game. There needs to be some kind of a Sega crossover fighting game that includes all their characters. Someone in the chat suggested that we should put Sonic the Fighters in here. I feel like that counts for this. You know, get Sonic in there, get Virtua Fighter characters in there, get just a whole crazy variety of, oh shoot, you could put the Yakuza characters in there, you could put the Persona characters in there because they're now owned by Sega. Yeah, there absolutely needs to be a Sega crossover fighting game. We did that Sega Smash Builder roster a couple years back, which is, to this day, still one of my favorite Builder rosters. Yeah, because it's just such a good idea. There absolutely needs to be some kind of a Sega crossover fighting game. And I don't care if it's like a 3D fighter like Megamix was, probably shouldn't be considering like how some of those characters would play. I don't care if it's a 2D fighter, I don't care if it's a platform fighter. There needs to be something. Def Jam. I am absolutely not the right person to talk about Def Jam, but I know the idea of getting a whole bunch of rappers and hip-hop stars all together into a fighting game is just a cool idea. This absolutely needs to be up here. It needs to be a thing that's still happening. I'm gonna put it like right there in the middle of why isn't there a sequel. As I said, I don't know anything about this topic. This is not my forte at all. However, and also, it's like a wrestling game. I am not into wrestling games. This is so not my game. I am not qualified to talk about this game at all, but even I know, this needs to be a thing. I know this needs to exist. We should absolutely make it exist. Then lastly, World Heroes. This is like, I feel like this is SNK's like 4th biggest franchise. Because first biggest is King of Fighters, then Samurai Showdown, then Fatal Fury. And then this, I feel, was just a hair above Art of Fighting. It definitely needs a collection, because there's like 4 games in here. There's like 4 games in this franchise, maybe even more when you consider the handheld stuff. So it definitely needs a collection, because there's definitely a whole bunch of like behind the scenes stuff I would love to know. There's like a bunch of character designs I would love to see and see like how these characters changed around. But I'd say you could go a little above collection and make it let the characters live on. And the main reason why I'm saying that is because SNK loves to let their characters live on. They love to have them pop up in some other stuff. In fact, I even believe that one of the characters in here was in that SNK Heroines game. So they already have like brought one of them back. But yeah, when you have King of Fighters, which is a crossover franchise between all your different series, it's kind of set up right there. Like, you could bring one of these characters back for King of Fighters. I think it could work. So yeah, let the characters live on and give them a collection. Someone in the chat said Neo Dio would be a sick boss. Yeah, if any character would possibly come back, Neo Dio would be great to pop up in just a random fighting game. He'd be amazing. Now that I feel way better about what the last game is on this list that we're going to talk about, let's go back to the start. Primal Rage definitely deserves a collection. I'm going to actually say spiritual successor. Because there needs to, just like with Godzilla, there needs to be some kind of a, like, dinosaur kaiju fighting game. And this one, unlike, you know, no offense to King of Monsters, this one's got the fan base around it. There are people who love the hell out of Primal Rage, but also Primal Rage had its own style and its own flavor. Like, what's the flavor of King of Monsters? It's big monsters fighting. That's it. Primal Rage was you're in a post-apocalyptic world where everything has returned back to the Stone Age, and you're fighting as dinosaurs and giant apes, but they're all worshipped as gods. And also it's crude and rude, and it's kind of moral comedy. It's definitely got its own flavor. There's nothing else quite like Primal Rage. I'm gonna say give it a spiritual successor, because there needs to be something out there kind of like it. If you could keep the claymation style around, that would be amazing, but I ain't saying that we gotta do that. Psychic Force is fun, but now we're good. Psychic Force, for anybody who doesn't know, is like a 3D fighter where you're in the air, so you can move like all around. It's very kind of Budokai-ish, now that I think about it. But you're also like within a cube, and the cube is like containing you within. It's an interesting side note in fighting game history, and I definitely believe that there should be some way to play it, but you don't need an official collection. Like, just some kind of a port would be fine. It's fine. Evo Japan had a Psychic Force tournament? Oh my god. I kind of want to see that. Punch-Out! Before anyone says it, Punch-Out is not a fighting game. It is not a fighting game. I'm aware it is not a fighting game, but the fighting game community loves it. Fighting game fans love Punch-Out, and it contains just enough of the same skills that fighting games contain that, yeah, I feel it counts. And yeah, why isn't there a sequel? Why isn't there a sequel? It's going right there in the middle. It has a spiritual successor. It has a spiritual successor, yes. There are actually many spiritual successors to Punch-Out, because everyone knows this is a good idea and we need a new one. Why isn't there one? So yeah, Punch-Out absolutely needs a new game. People love this series. The last one was so fun. Nintendo bought the studio that made it, so they're all working for them. And the Switch with the little Joy-Cons, it's made for it. It's absolutely perfect for it. It needs it. We need a new Punch-Out. Enough said. Puzzle Fighter. I'm putting this one in Make a Sequel. I'm putting this one like right here. Right in the middle. Yeah. I absolutely believe that Puzzle Fighter needs a sequel. And I don't even mean like the fighting game version. If you just wanted to do the version with all the little blocks coming down, I think that should happen, because it's very charming, but it's also not expensive. That's the other thing that people need to remember. It's not expensive to make a game like that. I mean, it is expensive in the way that all video games are expensive, and they all take a lot of time, and a lot of work goes into all of them. I'm not trying to say that they don't, but I'm just saying compared to like a bunch of these games, yeah, this one would like not be nearly as expensive to make. So again, just like with Power Stone, it's okay to like make a couple of AA games out there and not make them mobile games. Because for anybody who doesn't know, yes, they tried to bring Puzzle Fighter back as a mobile game, and it kind of sucked. And the art style was bad, and it just felt not good. And it was loaded with horrible microtransactions. There's a reason that one failed. We don't need that one. As a mobile game with horrible microtransactions, you can just put out like a nice little like $20 to $40 release, just a couple of characters in there, make it cute and charming, done. You know, if someone did suggest Pokken, hold on a second now. Pokken, fine, we can do that one. That one's good enough. The chat suggested Pokken, and you know what? Pokken actually makes a lot of sense. So we add Pokken in here. Pokken, I think Pokken is incredibly fun, but it's also just like beyond just being fun, the idea is just too good. Like, why can't there just be a Pokemon fighting game? It just those words, you hear that and you go, yes, that's a thing that should exist. Ghost Lord in the chat just said Pokken has serious franchise potential. I agree with you. I'm gonna put it right up there. Next up, Ready to Rumble Boxing. A very weird side note in the history of fighting games. It's a boxing game, and I always wonder if boxing games even count, but I think they kind of do. And this one's got enough personality that I feel it stands out from just your regular boxing games. Now we're good. Yeah, now we're good. You should be able to play it. You should be able to play it, but we don't need a new one. We don't even need a collection. Some kind of a very cheap port where it's just the game itself. That's all you need. Just some way that people can go, oh, this is what people were playing in the early 2000s, and that's it. That's the end of that. Red Earth! Red Earth, despite only having one game, still is beloved by so many Capcom fans. I don't think it needs a sequel. And the main reason it doesn't need a sequel is simply because, like, it only got one game, and there's so many other Capcom fighting games that need a sequel more. However, I do think that the world of Red Earth is cool. I think that there's a lot of awesome character designs in there. I think there's a lot of awesome monsters. I don't think it needs to be a fighting game. And I do remember hearing at one point that originally the idea for Dragon's Dogma was that it would be set in the world of Red Earth, that they would exist within the same reality. That's DLC for Dragon's Dogma right there. Just say, hey, we have DLC for Dragon's Dogma. It's going to be the Red Earth packet. You know all those giant monsters that you fought in Red Earth? They're now roaming around. You gotta go and fight them. You also run into like Tessa in there. She's a new NPC that you can meet and make friends with. Done. That's it. You do that. Someone suggested making it a roguelike. I can see that. I can see a roguelike. You just take these 4 characters, have them run through like a bunch of like little like Hades levels with the big monsters at the end. I think that'd be great. Rival Schools. Now, if you guys know me, Rival Schools and Darkstalkers were probably my 2 favorite fighting game franchises from that particular era of Capcom. I love Rival Schools. It means so much to me. However, if you told me, hey, we're bringing back a Capcom franchise, I would say Darkstalkers. And if you told me we're bringing back 2 Capcom fighting game franchises, I would still not pick Rival Schools. I would pick another game that we're going to talk about soon. So I feel like in the modern day, when Capcom can really only put out like 2, max 3 fighting game franchises, if even that. As much as I hate saying it, I don't think Rival Schools makes the cut. However, it absolutely needs a collection. The characters are amazing. They absolutely need to live on. I think it needs a spiritual successor. I think it needs a spiritual successor. And this is an idea that I came up with. And I even saw other people saying it as well. This is a weird thing that apparently, like, it feels like this should be a niche idea that no one is thinking of, but I have seen so many other people have this exact same idea. Turn Rival Schools into like a Dragon style game where you have the city map and you pick a school. You pick one of the schools to represent, and when you pick that school, you get 3 characters from that school. And then you get to go around, and it's the big annual competition between all the schools. So all the punks from each school are out trying to move in on your territory, and you gotta move them out, and each school has their own different little like storyline. You would only need the 1 map. So you wouldn't have to program in like 4 different maps. You'd only need the 1 map. And you could play the game as Taiyo Akami, and you get to be Batsu, Hinata, or Kyosuke. Or you can then pick like the Sports Academy, and you can go with the 3 characters from there. Or you can pick the Punk School, and you can go with Akira, or Daigo, or Edge. Or you can go with like the American Transfer School. Yeah, that just is a perfect idea to me. I would pat myself on the back for that one, except like I said, I've seen so many other people having the exact same idea. This is not a unique idea. Enough people have come up with this exact idea. So yeah, I definitely think oh my god. The best comment Scully the Kid, rival schools, 3 houses. Yes. 100%. 100%. But yeah, imagine like, you also make it a little bit like one of those like Muso games, because like you have like Batsu going in there, and he's got all his moves from the fighting game, but like you got the punk school trying to move in on your turf, or you got like the sports academy coming in, so you got like 20 people on field at once, all with baseball bats coming at you, and you're just knocking them around and seeing them flying all around. Then you gotta get like a side job on the weekends because you're a high school kid, so you gotta work at a convenience store, raise some money, that then goes back into your school to make your school even bigger. Something like that. What if Baju was a teacher now? Not yet. I would say make this the finale because in Japan, high school is 3 years. We got the first game, which was year 1. We got the second game, which was year 2. And even, I'm blanking on his name, the guy who created Rival Schools and also was behind like Dragon's Dogma and is behind Devil May Cry. He even said he wants to make a 3rd game because they need to do the 3rd year. They need to do the 3rd year. This would be the best way to do the 3rd year. It's all the schools vying for like one big final championship. And it'd be the perfect like salute and send-off. Hideaki Itsuno, thank you guys very much. But it'd be like the perfect salute and send-off to this series to have their big final senior year. Perfect title, Rival Schools Graduation. I love it. Sells itself. Right there. There you go. But yeah, imagine if like you also had to take care of your school and like build the school up. Like your school has like no funds, so you have to like, you know, work a job as well and raise some money by doing that and then invest that money back into the school. And then like as you do that, you see the school getting nicer and nicer as it goes along. Are you saying Rival Schools should be a Persona game? Don't tempt me. Don't you tempt me. Anytime that you say, should something be a Persona game, there's that voice in the back of my head that just goes, you know that'd be cool, kinda, right? Right? Oh god, and then you could have like all the supporting characters, like if you're in Taiyo Academy, you could have like Ron Hibiki being there, and then you're like, you help her out and increase her social link, and that makes the school paper like more effective. Oh god damn it. I want this now. Next. I don't know this game, I've never heard of it.
The Rumblefish.
The Rumblefish.
See, a Rumblefish, it needs a collection, and I know it already has a collection, but it needs a better collection, because the version of Rumblefish 2 in that collection, it's not the version people wanted, it's like the remake version of it, and all the competitive Rumblefish players, they only played the original version. You need the original version to get in the collection in there too. So yeah, even though it already has a collection, I'm still going to put it in make a collection right there. Slam Masters, I'm gonna say spiritual successor. There doesn't need to be a new Slam Masters. However, there's so many wrestling games out there, and wrestling games are so lucrative, and Capcom has so many wrestling-themed characters. Yeah, you should just put them all in a game. You should just put them all in a game. And also, here's the thing. Even though they're both technically fighting games, wrestling games don't have a massive overlap with, like, say, the 2D fighter crowd. So you could make a new Slam Masters wrestling game. And even though you put, like, Zangief and Alex and Armika and Hagar in there, that wouldn't really eat into the audience of your Street Fighter crowd. Like, if you put that game out, you wouldn't suddenly see a massive dip in your Street Fighter crowd as all the Street Fighter fans leave to become competitive Slam Master players. So yeah, you could put that out and it wouldn't, like, endanger any of your other fighting games. It'd be just fine. So yeah, it doesn't need to be Slam Masters. They need to do some kind of a wrestling game with all their wrestling characters. So yeah, spiritual successor. You got Hagar, Zangief, Armika, and her partner, Nadesco. Alex, El Fuerte, Hugo, and Poison to start with. Yeah, damn. Absolutely, like, that's a starting roster right there. Def Jam. What the heck happened to Def Jam? Def Jam vanished! We can't even keep Def Jam around, even on our tier list. What happened? I know what happened. I know what happened. I know what happened to it is I updated it to add Pokken into it, and then Def Jam vanished. All the things that weren't part of the official thing just vanished. Oh, Pokken came in here and just smacked Def Jam away, despite the fact that Pokken is on a lower level than Def Jam. Pokken dropped the sickest diss track, which, considering the fact it's just saying Pika over and over again, that's really saying something. I remember Def Jam, what happened to the other one? There was another one down here, but I don't remember what it was. Fighterz Megamix, thank you very much. Okay, let me add those back in. We're back, nothing happened at all. Everything is exactly where it should be. Anyway, okay, we're almost done. Soulcalibur 6, sorry, not just Soulcalibur 6, but Soulcalibur in general. Yes, the latest Soulcalibur didn't come out that long ago, but it has been pretty much flat out confirmed they're not making another one. They say that it did not hit their sales goal from what I understand, and also, like, Harada has come out and said, like, yeah, guys, listen, that's a different department than us. The other departments don't want to make fighting games right now. And the guy who's championing it is gone. Soulcalibur is pretty much gone. Soulcalibur should not be gone. Our souls still burn. It absolutely deserves to be up here. Bam. Soulcalibur 100% deserves to be up there. And like I said, it didn't meet their sales goal. Their sales goal is too high because it made a profit. Your sales goal should be, did it make a profit? It made a profit. Soulcalibur needs to be one of those games that just gets like that golden ticket of you're always allowed to exist. You're too important, you have too many fans, you always are allowed to exist. You always get new games. Star Gladiator, on the other hand, you get a collection. Star Gladiator gets a collection because it's a weird little corner of fighting game history. And it is kind of fun. It doesn't need a brand new game. And you know what? A few of the characters deserve to live on. A few of the characters are good enough. They should pop up in a crossover game. They should pop up as a guest star. It's just good enough to still have the characters around. But it doesn't get any higher than that. That's it. That's as far as you go. Tekken Tag Tournament, Harada has confirmed they're not going to do Tekken Tag Tournament again. In fact, he even talks about, like, why the hell do you guys want a new Tekken Tag Tournament? That last one sold horribly. And I'm going to let you guys know right now, the thing that makes Tekken Tag Tournament so cool isn't just the gameplay. The gameplay is great, but was also the everyone is here mentality. Bandai Namco and Tekken are not going to do an everyone is here game because then you can't sell DLC. Smash Bros did everyone is here because Smash Bros is a crossover between every fighting game in existence. You can absolutely do DLC for that. You can't do an everyone is here for an existing franchise because then you don't have anyone for DLC. It's never going to happen. And the last one did not sell well. However, it deserves a spiritual successor. And this is what I mean by that. If what you love about Tekken Tag Tournament is the gameplay, they should absolutely have a Tekken Tag Tournament mode in Tekken. Like if you buy Tekken 8, it should say arcade, story, online, tag tournament. Tekken Tag Tournament should be a mode in Tekken. Just pick up the gameplay, give it its own little title, and put it into the regular Tekken. There you go. It gets to live on, and that way they can still charge the DLC and do all that. And yes, I understand that's a lot of work, I'm saying. I know I'm making it sound like you just flip a switch, and then bam, you got it in there. No, it's a lot of work to make something like that happen. I understand. But if your concern is nobody will buy it, put in the thing you know people are already going to buy. There you go. And also, considering the fact that the main one-on-one is still the main attraction, you don't even really need to worry about balancing tag tournament mode all that much, because it's not the main attraction. It's the fun side thing. Does anybody worry if Tekken Ball is properly balanced? No, it's the fun side thing. Virtua Fighter, yeah, it's too important. It's too important to the history of fighting games to not get a sequel. There you go, bing bang boom. I don't even need to explain that one anymore. The only reason why I'm kind of hesitant to put in why isn't there a sequel is simply because we are living in the day and age of flashy fighting games. Virtua Fighter is not a flashy fighting game. It looks great. The graphics are amazing. The graphics are amazing. However, it doesn't have any supers. It doesn't have any weird, crazy, unique, like, you know, nobody does Roman cancels in the middle of it, nothing like that. But here's the thing. You shouldn't. You should not do that in Virtua Fighter. It would destroy Virtua Fighter. That's not something you want in Virtua Fighter. So that's the only reason why I'm hesitant to put it up here, is because I don't know if casual audiences would be into it that much. But just like Soulcalibur, Virtua Fighter gets that little ticket that says, you're always allowed to exist. You're always allowed to get a brand new game. And now the final one, Marvel vs. Capcom. Feels appropriate to go out on it. You know where I stand on this. You know where I stand on this. Absolutely, there needs to be a new Marvel vs. Capcom. However, plot twist, this is not Marvel vs. Capcom. This is another asterisk. This is actually versus Capcom. This is something versus Capcom. If Marvel says no, go to somebody else. Because the gameplay of Marvel vs. Capcom is too good, the crossover elements of it are too good, and outside of Infinite, the design and style of it is too good to not still exist. And Tatsunoko vs. Capcom proved you don't need Capcom. A lot of people don't understand this, and it feels like I could make an entire video just on this. But there's a lot of people out there who are like, well, why does Tatsunoko vs. Capcom count as a versus game, but not Tekken Cross Street Fighter or Capcom vs. SNK? Why don't those count as the versus games? Gameplay. It's because Tatsunoko vs. Capcom was made for the specific reason of saying we don't need Marvel to still have Marvel. People love the gameplay of Marvel vs. Capcom, and they love that crossover element. They love the tagging back and forth. They love the high-flying, super crazy combos. They love the team-up supers. You can absolutely, positively, 100% do this without Marvel. Yeah, I agree with that. You should 100% be able to do the versus games with any other company out there. And my vote is for Sega, because that actually almost happened. A lot of people don't know this, but in like the mid-2000s, after Marvel was done, but before they came back with Street Fighter IV, Sammy, the company that just recently bought Sega, like as soon as they bought Sega, they went to Capcom and was like, we want to do a new versus game. We want to do Sammy versus Capcom. And Capcom was like, we're not really doing fighting games anymore. You could 100% do that. You could 100% do that now. Sega versus Capcom, everyone would line up for that. Everyone would line up for that. I can hear my voice shutting down from how long we've been talking. So, yeah, it's not as high as Killer Instinct or Darkstalkers, but it's way up there. And I know a lot of people out there are saying, oh, you should do Capcom versus Capcom. Capcom vs. Capcom, oddly enough, is the one I don't want them to do. Yet. Just yet. Because in my mind, the moment they do Capcom vs. Capcom, that's it. They're not going to do any more crossover games after that. They're not going to go, wait a minute, we can get this exact same appeal just from ourselves and we don't have to split any of the money? Why have we been teaming up with people to begin with? So yeah, in my mind, that should be the finale. When nobody else wants to cross over with Capcom, then you do Capcom versus Then you do Capcom versus Capcom. I know people want to cross over with Capcom. So I want to see more crossovers. So yeah, I would love to get a brand new versus game. And as much of a Marvel fan as I am, I don't even think it needs to be Marvel. It just needs to be something. So there you go. I will be honest with you. I didn't think this was going to be the biggest one. I didn't think the biggest one was going to be why isn't there a sequel? But yeah, wow. I didn't think the Characters Live On would get this many either. So yeah. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. This was a much bigger experiment than I expected. It kind of makes me happy to think about how many amazing fighting games are out there. And then it makes me sad to think that none of these are getting a game. But, you know what? I said the exact same thing about Fatal Fury. And look at where we are now. See y'all in City of the Wolves. Hey, thank you guys very much for tuning in today. We don't do tier lists on this channel often, but you know what? I always have fun when we do. So if you want to see us do more stuff like this, let us know in the comments down below. Also, of course, let me know, do you agree with what we said? Was there anything that I left off? Where would you have placed everything? In fact, I will even link the tier that we made for this in the description, so if you want to fill it out yourself, you can always check in there. You can also find my socials in there, as well as a link to our Patreon, where you can get your name in the credits like all these fine people right here, and early looks at some upcoming videos, as well as a couple of exclusives. And this weekend is EVO, and if you happen to be there, this will be my very first time at EVO, so if you see me walking around, feel free to say hi. Thank you guys very much for tuning in today. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy out there this summer, and I hope that watching this video you found some interesting, lesser-known games that you want to check out. Thanks for tuning in today, everyone. Stay safe out there, and come back next time.